Crowds packed the auditoriums hours before the doors even opened. Wheelchairs lined the walls. Stretchers filled the aisles. Doctors, skeptics, and desperate families all gathered under one roof. And then she would walk slowly onto the stage. Tall, elegant, draped in flowing white. Her voice soft but unmistakably confident. And she would say something that stunned people every time. "I have no healing power. I have no gifts. I am nothing." Yet during her meetings, thousands of people claimed they were healed. Blind eyes opened, tumors disappeared, crippling pain left bodies instantly. For decades, one woman stood at the center of one of the most mysterious and controversial healing ministries in modern Christian history. Her name was Kathryn Kuhlman. But the most surprising part of her story is the thing almost no one talks about. Because the woman who would one day minister to millions almost walked away from ministry forever.
Kathryn Johanna Kuhlman was born in 1907 in Concordia, Missouri. Her parents were German-American Christians, deeply committed to their faith. From a young age, Kathryn loved church. But her life changed forever when she was just 14 years old. During a revival meeting in Idaho, a traveling evangelist named Amy Semple McPherson preached a message that captured her heart. Kathryn later described the moment as a divine calling. She believed God had set her apart for ministry. But the path ahead would not be easy. As a young woman, Kathryn began traveling with her sister and brother-in-law, who were evangelists. She quickly discovered something surprising. She could preach, and people listened. Her voice was unique, emotional, dramatic, deeply personal. Soon she began holding revival meetings of her own across the Midwest. Crowds came, churches filled. It seemed like her ministry was only going to grow. But then something happened that almost destroyed everything. In the 1930s, Kathryn married a man named Burroughs Waltrip. He was also an evangelist. But there was a serious problem. Waltrip had been previously married, and his divorce was controversial. The marriage created a storm of criticism across Christian circles. Suddenly, the rising young evangelist found herself at the center of scandal. Ministry invitations disappeared. Supporters distanced themselves. The pressure was immense. Eventually, Kathryn made a painful decision. She ended the marriage. But the damage had already been done. For years, her ministry struggled to recover. And at one point, she believed she had completely failed God. This is the part of her story many people don't know. After the collapse of her early ministry, Kathryn went through a period of deep spiritual reflection. She later described a moment alone with God where she completely surrendered her reputation, her ambitions, and her future. She prayed something simple but powerful. God, if you can use nothing, here I am. And according to Kathryn, everything changed after that moment. She began preaching again, but something about her ministry felt different. There was less performance, more humility, more dependence on the Holy Spirit. And soon, something unexpected began happening in her meetings. People started reporting healings. In the 1950s and 60s, Kathryn Kuhlman's meetings exploded in popularity. Her weekly services in Pittsburgh's Carnegie Hall became legendary. Thousands attended. Doctors sometimes came to observe the claims of healing. Many were skeptical, but testimonies continued pouring in. People said tumors disappeared, chronic diseases vanished, crippling conditions reversed. Kathryn always responded the same way. She refused to claim credit. In fact, She often stopped services suddenly if she felt people were focusing on her instead of God. She would say, "Don't look at Kathryn Kuhlman. Look at Jesus."
One of the most unusual aspects of her meetings was the atmosphere. People frequently described feeling an overwhelming sense of God's presence. There were long moments of silence. Soft worship music played. Kathryn would often pause mid-sermon, listening quietly before speaking again. Some critics called it emotional manipulation. Others believed something genuinely supernatural was happening. Whatever the explanation, her meetings continued drawing massive crowds. Her television program, I Believe in Miracles, brought her message to millions.
Despite her global influence, Kathryn never claimed to be extraordinary. In fact, she repeatedly insisted she had no special ability. She often told audiences, "The greatest tragedy in the world is not unanswered prayer. The greatest tragedy is prayer that goes unanswered, because it was never asked." She believed the real power behind her ministry wasn't talent, education, or personality. It was simple surrender to God. And that message resonated with people everywhere.
Kathryn Kuhlman continued traveling and ministering until the late 1970s. Her health began declining due to heart problems. In 1976, she passed away at the age of 68. But her influence didn't disappear. Her ministry inspired future evangelists and healing ministers across the world. Even decades later, many still study her life and wonder about the mystery of what happened in those meetings. But perhaps the most important part of Kathryn Kuhlman's story isn't the miracles. It's the surrender. She believed that God wasn't looking for perfect people. He was looking for available people. Her life became proof that someone who had experienced failure, criticism, and brokenness could still be used powerfully by God. And that truth still matters today. What if the same thing could happen in your life? Not necessarily standing on stages or preaching to thousands, but living a life fully surrendered to God. Kathryn once said, "God is not looking for golden vessels. He is looking for yielded vessels." And history shows us something remarkable. When ordinary people fully surrender to God, extraordinary things often follow. If you enjoy stories like this about revival and faith, make sure to subscribe for more untold stories of revival. Because the next story might just change the way you see your own calling.